In this video, you learn about mobile threat defense best practices that help you to secure the org from threats to mobile devices. In the video, Deploy Mobile Threat Defense, I described how to use Microsoft Endpoint Manager to deploy the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint app to iOS, iPadOS, and Android devices. That makes the app available to end users, but you can't force them to onboard to it, and you can't block high-risk devices. You can fix that with 3 best practices. The first is to share device information, like risk level, between Defender for Endpoint and Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Second, set up a compliance policy that marks devices as non-compliant if they don't meet a minimum bar for risk level. And third, create a conditional access policy that prevents access by mobile devices that aren't compliant with the previous policy. This requires users to onboard to the Defender for Endpoint app before they can access corporate resources. Of course, I'm going to show you all 3 steps. I'll start by connecting Defender for Endpoint with Microsoft Endpoint Manager. There are 2 steps here. First, in the Microsoft 365 Defender portal, you must enable sharing of device information and policy enforcement. That setting is in Settings, Endpoints, Advanced Features. At the bottom of the page, turn on the Microsoft Intune Connection toggle. Then, over in Microsoft Endpoint Manager, you must do something similar. Select Tenant Administration, Connectors and Tokens, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Turn on both the Connect Android devices to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Connect iOS devices to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint toggles. Now, compliance policies based on the device threat level will use data from these connectors to evaluate them. The second step is setting up a compliance policy that marks devices as non-compliant if their risk level is too high. That's all it does. It just marks them as non-compliant. You'll create a conditional access policy in the next step that prevents non-compliant devices from accessing your org's valuable resources. On the Compliance Policies page, select Create Policy to get started. Then, in the list of platforms, select iOS, iPadOS, followed by Create. The steps for Android devices are similar. Type a name for the policy, in this case, iOS, iPadOS, Risk Score, and select Next. Then, on the Compliance Settings tab, twirl open Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and select Low, or, better yet, Clear from the list of risk levels. That's the maximum risk score for a compliant device. We never recommend choosing medium or high. Select Next to define actions for non-compliance. By default, the policy marks devices as non-compliant immediately with no grace period, but you can change that here. And other actions are available, like emailing users or sending them push notifications. Almost done. You just need to assign this policy, preferably to the same group to which you deployed the app. In this case, I'll select Add All Users, but you can also assign it to specific groups, like maybe a pilot group. Then select Next. Last, select Create. Microsoft Endpoint Manager shows you a nice summary of the policy's deployment status that will fill out as it works. It's a little underwhelming at first. The third and final step is creating a conditional access policy that blocks access for non-compliant devices. On the Conditional Access page, select New Policy to get started. Type a name for the policy, like Require Device Compliance, and select Users and Groups to assign the policy to the same group you used in the previous step. In my case, I'll select All Users, just to keep things simple. Heed the warning though, good chance that I lock everyone out. So, select Exclude, followed by Directory Roles, and select Global Administrator to avoid assigning it to my account. Last, select Grant, and then select Require Device to be marked as compliant to grant access to resources, followed by Select. Right now, the policy only reports violations. To enforce it, select On under Enable Policy, and then select Create to finish up. With that, you're done. You've deployed the app, set up a compliance policy, and created a conditional access policy that blocks access to devices that are out of compliance. Mobile Threat Defense helps to protect your org from the many threats to mobile devices. To learn more, we recommend that you see our documentation on Microsoft Docs.